So how many football fans in the room? A couple of, hey, look, I'm more than I expected. All right, good. Awesome. So, today means nothing. It's nothing special is happening today. All the looks of frustration on your faces. What happens tonight? Super Bowl. Whether you are a football fan or not, this should be on your radar. Now, I am not a huge sports fan, but I do like watching the Super Bowl. I like watching the LSU Michigan game. And so tonight, then, we're going to be kind of tuning in together. And even though football is not really my thing, I do enjoy the concession stand. So if you're like me, then it's worth making your way on over here. Can you picture with me what it would be like? Imagine how silly it would be if the player had the ball and was running, past the 50, past the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10, has a clear path ahead to the end zone, but then stops before scoring. Can you picture that in your mind how ridiculous that would be? Nothing in the way, nothing stopping him from continuing on to score, but just stopping right before then. And did that particular athlete make progress? I'd say 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, if we didn't have backwards tens. But we would not call that a win. We would not even call that scoring, because you're actually going to get into the end zone if you're going to score that touchdown. What would the coach have to say to the player who did that? Can you imagine it? Even if you're not really into sports, I can kind of like almost in my head hear the coach chewing that player out, making sure that they're going to have to pay for the stupid choice they have of just stopping right before they scored. And maybe some sort of a punishment like you're on the bench or something worse. You got to run some drills. The fifth word that we'll explore together today is connected with this idea of how I'm describing the ridiculous football player who just stops. We have these letter C words in order to help make it more easy to remember. Because I figure if we cannot remember the path that we're trying to take together, it's going to be a lot harder for us to navigate that path. So each word starts with the letter C, and we've got let's see, is that on the screen? Yeah, no peeking, all right? I know it's on. Is it? Oh, okay. Well then, I was going to say no peeking in the first word. Mary Jo showed me what our next word is, and that's actually just fine. So, because that's where we're headed right now. So in the graphic, everybody look over here. See this circle image over here? See it's got a light shining on it? Kind of points to connect, points to contribute, points to commit, points to... But it keeps going. Can you see how the arrow makes the movement continuous? It never stops. So the next word, even though it doesn't show up in the picture, you guys are now considered to be the insiders. You know that there's a fifth word. This word that didn't show up there, but you know what comes next. It's the word continue. And just like that football player needed to do together to continue on to score that goal, we grow spiritually by the way that God designed us to, along this path here, by continuing the discipleship path. Don't think of it as a destination. So if you have a destination in mind, once you get there, you're done. You stop. There's nothing left to do. I've accomplished the goal, hooray, wipe it off my to-do list, there's nothing left for me to do for the rest of my life. But that's not how this works. The path that God has laid for you and for me is actually a continuing path that continues along that circle. And it probably wouldn't take those of us very long who are really chew on this to realize, how do I continue to do some of these things, right? So the first one, can I continue to come, to get together with the church? Sure I can. Can I continue to connect with other people in meaningful relationships, to connect with individuals in the small groups? Sure I can. Can I continue to contribute? I sure can. Yeah, we can contribute in really meaningful ways that help to enable the ministry of the church to continue. But like my commitment to Jesus, am I supposed to redo that? Is that what we're talking about? No, that's not what we're talking about here. Now, if you need to renew your commitment to follow Jesus, by all means, do so. But that's not what I'm describing when I say the word continue. We continue by helping others to reach their milestones along the discipleship path. So while you've already come, you've already connected, you've already made a connection with the church, you may have already started contributing to the work of ministry of the church, you may have already committed your life, your heart, your decisions, your future to Jesus. That's fantastic. The way that you continue is to help someone else so that they can come and be connected with the church, so that they can find ways to meaningfully contribute. And then face that question where they're going to have to choose whether or not they will commit to following Jesus. Super Bowl 59 is going to be tonight with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes is going to be leading the way here, and they are hoping tonight for their third consecutive win. If they win tonight, this will actually be the first time in NFL history that any team has won 3 Super Bowls consecutively. Not just that they've won 3, but they've won 3 back-to-back. And tonight, I hope that there's a game that's interesting, a little bit fun. I hope they play fair, and I hope they don't stop short of the finish line, because everybody would be irate. This is ridiculous. We'd be starting to throw food at the TV. If you come over to watch the game at my house, then please don't throw food, because my wife will make me clean it up. But this imagery it's silliness. Why wouldn't we continue? So this is the point at which we turn to the text. Did you know God talks about sports? I don't know if you've ever caught this before, but God speaks about sports, athleticism, and so forth. I want to show it to you. That's the text in 1 Corinthians 9. So if you've got your Bible and you're following along, or if you want to flip there just now, we'll look at 1 Corinthians 9, starting verse 24. Here's what it says, 1 Corinthians 9, starting in verse 24. Don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? All right, so picture it with me. There's a race. All the people are lined up at the start line. Time to go. Run. But only one person comes in first place and gets that prize. So it says, run to win, as opposed to run to get a participation trophy. No, that's not what it says. Verse 25, all athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. NIV reads, for a crown that will last forever. So, I run with purpose in every step. I'm not just shadowboxing. I'm not just pretending to participate in this spiritual activity, in this spiritual sport. Verse 27, I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. DQ. Have you ever seen that before? You're watching the Olympics or watching something, and there's times or scores, and then it will read DQ. Sorry, it doesn't really matter how well you did because you didn't do all that well. You've become disqualified. It's kind of ironic to me how often, and we like to make fun of this irony too. There are certain individuals who are very vocal, certain individuals who are very loud and boisterous about their opinion, telling the coach, telling the refs, telling the players what they need to do when these particular individuals are what we might call less than athletic. You know what I'm talking about, right? Somebody who, they would do horribly if they were on the team. They would never be able to succeed if they were out there on the field, and yet they are the most passionate and the loudest voice that is around saying, oh, you gotta do this, and you can't do that, and that's a bad call, whatever. They make it easy to tell the difference between being a spectator versus being a team player. I'm more of a spectator kind of a guy when it comes to sports. But what exactly is it that makes a spiritual athlete? Because I'm not here to talk with you about running races or playing football. I'm here to talk with you about this comparison of sports to what's happening in our spirit. So look at verse 24 again. Verse 24, it says, run to win. This is what God is asking for you and for me to do. Comparatively. Not just that you are participating, but that you're participating so that you can win. And you don't do that if you don't continue. Nobody wins the game unless they continue. Everyone is running somewhere. You are, I am, the person next to you. Every single one of us is running. Some of us are running to the couch. But all of us are motivated to chase after something. Some people are chasing success or wealth. Some people are running so that they can have comfort in their life. I'm not suggesting these things are bad. I'm just saying these are things that people run towards or chase after. We run for relationships, for career, for personal goals. For some of us, we're running towards retirement. We've already gotten there, and so this is what we're doing. This is my life. These are my days now. This is what's motivating me. For some folks, what is it for you? Just think for a moment about what you are running for. Where's that finish line for you? Where's that end zone for you that you're chasing after? Would you describe that as something that is meaningful, something that will last? Or maybe more importantly, would God describe that as something that's meaningful, as something that will last, or is it something that's going to fade away? What's that win look like for you? Because sometimes, I think, it just gets easier to make the goal for us just, well, I'm just going to get through the day. I'm going to just make it through this week. As long as I can get through this season, and I'm just going to make it through. I totally understand that mindset because I exist in the same world that you do. But that's not a win. That's a, well, I'm here. And I wonder if we might run for something more. God tells us to run with intention. He says it's for a prize that doesn't fade. So you've got athletes who are chasing after a trophy, or maybe a ribbon, maybe acclaim, some sort of a fame in this regard, but that fades away. That's not something that lasts forever. It's exciting, it's great, it's fantastic, it's very exciting, but it's not going to last. So you got to figure out for yourself, what's your end zone? How is it that you are identifying, okay, now I scored, now I actually am getting ahead, now I'm winning, or not? And if you don't know how to assess your score and how to assess whether you've won, we're going to need to figure that out. Because otherwise you're just like, what, running in circles on the field? That's not a win. That's going to be exhausting. In fact, I think that would be really frustrating. Think about how to win the game. Why even bother playing it? Green Bay Packers coach Vince Lombardi said the difference between a successful person and others is not lack of strength. Okay? The difference between a successful person and others is not lack of strength, not lack of knowledge, but rather a lack of, any guesses? Will. He said a lack of will. They won the first 2 Super Bowls. They had really strong will. This decision, this determination, never quit, never stop, make sure that they complete what they're going to continue on until they won, and then they won again. So what's your win? Well, what would God say that your win ought to be? I'll tell you this. He did not say that the win is to come. Oh, but isn't that in the graphic? I mean, isn't that like on the poster that we put around the church and showed you on the screen to come to church? God would not say that the win is come. It includes that, right? We're supposed to be connected with His church. He wants us to contribute meaningfully to His work, to His kingdom, to the work of ministry there, to contribute. And now He calls us to commit our lives, our hearts, our decisions, everything that we do, and everything that we will be to Jesus, so that He will be the Lord over me, so that He will be the Lord over you. He's calling us to that. And these milestones that we've talked about over the last number of weeks, these 4 milestones, are only the beginning of what God defines as the win for you and for me. It's just the start. So these 4 words, come, connect, contribute, commit, those words are absolutely vital. They're included, they're necessary, but they're incomplete. They're partial. That only gets us part of the way, maybe most of the way, to reach the end zone, to reach the winning score, but not all the way there because they're incomplete. There's one thing that I want to teach you today. I'm kind of like talk my way around it a whole lot together, but one thing that I'm hoping that you can kind of take into your mind, take into your heart, and take it home with you today. We continue, so that's our word, our 5th word, we continue by helping others to reach their milestones. We need to come. We need to connect. We need to contribute meaningfully. We need to commit. But how is it that we continue? Well, by helping others to reach their milestones. We've got an example of this given in verse 25. So look there with me. Verse 25, it talks about athletes who are disciplined in their training. So what do? They wake up early, they run, they stretch, they lift weights, they run drills, they work together as a team, they memorize plays, they make sure that they're understanding how the team works together, they evaluate, they have all these tactics that are part of their discipline in order that they might be able to win more often. Would others say that you are disciplined in the way that you live out your faith? That's one thing for you to say that when I say that I'm disciplined, or it's one thing for you to say, would God say that I'm disciplined? These are good questions, but what about other people? When they look at you and they see what's happening in your life, would they describe you as disciplined in the way that you practice your faith? Halfway through verse 25, he talks about the difference between an athlete and a disciple. So there's this comparison. There's similarities between athletes and disciples, but there are also differences too. Partway through verse 25, the athletes do it, he said, to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for what? For an eternal prize. For a prize that will last forever. And prizes that fade away, they're not bad. We've got all kinds of prizes and things that we can celebrate. They're exciting accomplishments. They're not bad. They just don't last. Remember the spelling bee? Did you ever get all excited about being in a spelling bee? I remember being so nervous, just really hoping that I would be able to spell a certain word. It plagues me to this day. It's the word vacuum. I don't know how to spell it. I don't like to do it. It's a difficult word. And the reason why I told that in my head is because that was the word that was given to me when I was doing the spelling bee. And I got it wrong in front of everybody. And it felt like the end of my world for a while. And then eventually I realized maybe that spelling bee wasn't all that important as much as I thought that it was. I go a little bit further, and I'm in my education, and I'm working hard, I'm trying to get decent grades, I'm trying to pass classes or succeed on tests. I just want to stink and graduate, and I work, and then what happens when you finish high school? Then you start to realize all those things that were so important in high school were really just in high school. And when you're out of high school, then you've got a whole host of other things that are going to rise to the top of your priority list. I know we're not all at the same time there, but you come to the place where you realize that the prize faded from what it used to seem so important to us, and so we chase after a career. We get different types of jobs, we look for better pay, we look for better position, a little bit of time off, I want good health insurance, right? We're chasing after our career, and then pretty soon we start to realize, wait a minute, this career, it really is only good as much as it enables me to prioritize family. Because if I'm pouring myself in my career, all my time, all my attention, all my energy into my career, but not into my wife and or my kids, I'm destroying my family. Yeah, I got money, got a place to live, and insurance, but there's a different goal. And that first goal of career fades. And then by the time we get to the end of life, and hopefully that's a far, long way off for each of us, right? But by the time we get there, how many people do you know that have reached the end of their life and they look back with regrets, wishing that they had done things differently? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody like that before? It's really difficult to hear that because you can't go back. You can't change what's happened in the past, and you carry this weight just, if I could go back and I could do it all over again, I would change this and I would undo that. And I hope by the time we get there, we can say, boy, I know I made some mistakes, but I would do it the same way all over again. I don't know what we'll be able to say when we get there, but I know that some of those things that we celebrated along the way, some of those goals, those wins, those trophies in life, they just faded. They weren't bad, but they didn't last. Jesus said in Luke 9 that we gain the best, the absolute best in the world, the best of comforts, the best of acquisition here, but there's something that is worth much more. In Luke 9, he said to the crowd, if any of you wants to be my follower, Jesus said you must give up your own way. Take up your cross daily and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, he said, you'll lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. Catch this. What do you benefit if you gain the whole world? Everything wonderful in the world. If you gain all of the best, what do you benefit, he asks, if you gain the whole world, but you yourself are lost or destroyed? Is anything worth more than your soul? No. It doesn't matter if it's the best of the absolute world. If it's the whole world, and you become the richest, most powerful, most successful person ever, it still isn't as worth as much as your soul. Let's make this personal. So we're reflecting on these concepts, these ideas of people who are participating in this sport of life, this sport spiritually, and we're thinking about moving goals and goals that fade and goals that last, but apply it to yourself. Turn that question inward yourself and say, what is it that I am chasing right now? What is it that occupies my thoughts or my well-being the most right now? What is it that I'm investing the most time and energy into right now? It may be a wonderful thing. It may be a fantastic thing. It could be a very wholesome and moral thing. Maybe it's not, but let's just go with the good thing version, okay? But is it going to last? That's a far more important question. Where's your end zone? Could your goals be described as an eternal prize? Because this is what God's Word tells us that we need to be chasing after. Athletes do it for a prize that will fade, but we should be doing this for an eternal prize. Is my goal, is my trophy temporary, fading, or is it something that God would say, hey, you need to aim a little bit higher. You need to have a higher goal. What is he saying to you? The way that we have eternal prize level goals according to our Lord is by helping others to reach their milestone. That's how we continue. By helping others to reach their milestones along the discipleship path. So we help someone to come. We extend invitations. We help someone to connect, to make sure that they know others and have meaningful relationships in the church that actually have a significant impact upon their lives. We help others to contribute, to find a way that they uniquely fit into what God is doing in this church, in this community, in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our nation. God has something important that he wants you to contribute. And we're going to help others to figure out what that is as well. And to help them to come to the place of decision. Because they need to make that choice. Whether they want to or not, each of us has to make that choice. Of whether we're going to commit ourselves to Jesus. And then to help them so that they can have others to continue. It may seem like a strange concept, but in fact, none of us would know Jesus unless somebody was practicing this fifth word. None of us would know salvation or forgiveness or the mercy of God unless somebody else continued on by helping us to reach our milestones. It's the same thing that we are being sent to do, to continue the discipleship path by helping someone in addition to us reach their milestones as well. Following Jesus means realigning our priorities, and not just once, but this is a daily thing that requires thinking and careful reflection and different decision-making, a lifestyle of surrender to him. As long as I am the one who is going to be in the place of authority over me, then he can't be. As long as you are the one who is the king or the queen of your life, Jesus can't be. You, at minimum, have to take second place to him. If he's going to be Lord, if that's going to be your commitment, and you're going to do the things that he has asked for us to do by helping others as well to find their path along these milestones here, if we're going to do that, then he needs to be the one who's calling those shots. Ask yourself, what is one thing I can lay down to make more room for the eternal? Because, I mean, if you're like me, you don't really have a whole lot of space in your life for more stuff. Who's looking for a whole lot of stuff to do? Nobody. We're busy, you know? And if you are looking for something to do, then let's talk, okay? But for many of us, like, think all good Americans, what ends up happening is if there's a slot that's empty in our schedule, how do we respond? As quickly as possible, we will fill that slot. Here's like, hey, I got Tuesday off. What do you want to do, right? I have extra time this weekend. This thing got canceled. I wasn't going to spend my time doing it. So what do you want to do? How am I going to fill this slot? And we just keep getting ourselves more and more and more and more busy with activities and responsibilities. And the next thing you know, we've got no room. So I'm not at all suggesting that we need more things to do. What I'm suggesting is that it's going to be important for us to find something that we can lay down to say, I'm not going to prioritize this thing. I'm not going to prioritize spending my money in this way or my time in that way, focusing on this relationship or chasing after this goal. And it might be a good thing that we're laying down. But when we do that, that's what gives us the opportunity so that we can focus on the eternal, the prizes that don't fade. And when I ask myself this, then I need to ask it again tomorrow. What's something I can lay down in my life to make more room for the eternal? And then I need to ask myself again the next day. What's something I can lay down in my life right now? Some goal, some way I'm spending time, some way I'm prioritizing in order to make more room for the eternal. That's what verse 26 calls running with purpose in every step. My mom, bless her heart, I think if I hadn't been right there next to her, there were so many times she would have walked out in front of traffic. I love my mom dearly. But she's just thinking about something else, walking through the parking lot, or like on the way inside the store, and the next thing you know, I'm like grabbing her, hang on, because she's walking, but she's not walking with purpose in every step. And if you're not doing that, you might find yourself the wrong side of the car's bumper. Spiritually speaking, that's not where I want to be. And I don't think you either. Running with purpose in every step, as opposed to, in verse 26, it says, as opposed to just shadow boxing. So I'm not a boxer. Actually, I know somebody that could probably talk with us a little bit more about that. But shadow boxing, pretending to participate, it's a means of practice, but you're not actually boxing anybody. It's just a shadow that's there, pretending to do the sport, pretending to be on the team, or pretending that Jesus is my Lord, pretending that I'm going to participate with the church. I'm going to come, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do the things, I'm going to look on the outside like I'm participating as an athlete, but on the inside, I'm just up against shadows. This is shadow boxing, and it's not what God has asked for us to do. There are a lot of ways that people appear to follow Jesus without actually living in full surrender. In fact, I think we kind of get good at it sometimes. To make it look on the surface like we're doing all the good stuff, but in fact we're just shadowboxing. We're not living in full surrender. Let me show you 7 of these different ways. There are more, but 7 that came to mind here. The first is going through the motions. So, we can show up at church, we can attend, but if we're here over and over again and we don't have any real heart engagement, if we're not allowing God to transform us by changing what and who we love, by changing the decisions that we make, then we're just going through motions. Secondly, we can know about Jesus without knowing Him. There's a big difference between knowing the trivia about Jesus, memorizing the stuff, making sure that you've got the right answers, that you can be the first one to raise your hand and say, oh, I know what that thing is, versus actually knowing Him. Because you can quote Scripture all day long and debate theology. You might even be good enough to teach, but we still need a personal relationship with Jesus. He needs to be my Lord, not my subject content of the things that I'm memorizing. Big difference there. It's like the difference between studying a boxer's technique versus actually getting in the ring. I could learn what is it that I'm supposed to jab, how do I move, how do I block. I could learn all of the techniques from some great boxer and never go in the ring. That's what it is to know about Jesus without knowing Jesus. Thirdly, serving without surrender. I've talked with you a number of times about the importance and the value of contributing. That's a part of our discipleship path, one of the milestones along the path, contributing, doing good things, volunteering, giving, leading ministries. But if we're still holding on to control in our own lives, then we're serving without surrender. I can do the stuff. I can do meaningful stuff, helpful stuff. And people on the outside be like, wow, it's so great that you did that thing. You showed up, you gave, you contributed, you actually made a big difference. But if you're not surrendering to Jesus, then it's just a surface level. Our faith looks real on the outside, but it doesn't affect how we make decisions and handle the struggles on the inside. Fourth, selective obedience. When I was a boy, I think I told you this story before, my mom actually took me to the doctor to get my hearing checked. Because she would call out to have me do something, and I just wouldn't answer. And she thought, well, maybe he didn't hear me, so she'd say it again. And then I wouldn't answer, and then she'd say it a little louder, and I wouldn't answer. So she takes me to the doctor. The doctor checks my hearing, and he says to her, Mom, your son has selective hearing. His ears are fine. He can totally hear you, but it's selective hearing. In this instance, sometimes what we have is selective obedience. There's stuff that God asks us to do that's nice, it's easy, it feels good. It's like the reward is obvious and immediate. Following Jesus in areas that are comfortable, but ignoring commands that require sacrifice, that's selective. obedience. There are times that the things that he commands for us to do aren't easy. They're difficult, they're costly. He wants us to love our enemies. Not just say, oh, the right thing for me to do is love my enemies, but to actually love our enemies, to forgive, and to forgive people who never apologize. It stinks, man. I'm going to forgive somebody who hasn't said that they're sorry to me. I know what that feels like, but guess what? God forgave me long before I even knew that I needed to apologize. Right? To forgive long before people apologize. To surrender. If we're not doing these things and the other difficult things that Jesus has asked us to do, then we would call that selective obedience. Ways that we just shadowbox in our faith. Fifth, we use Jesus as a safety net. This one actually I think is one of the biggest dangers in the practice of faith and the practice of religion in the United States and the West today. Using Jesus as a safety net. And what it means is that we turn to God, but only in crisis. Oh, hey, there's a problem at work. Well, then I'll turn to God and ask him for help. Oh, hey, I'm having trouble making this bill. Or, hey, I'm sick, or my loved one is not well. Oh, there was a car accident. I turn to God in the moment of crisis. But then for the rest of life, we just act like, oh, whatever. I'll let you know when I need you, Lord. I don't really think we can call him Lord if the only time that we're turning to him is a moment of crisis here. We're using Jesus as a safety net during hard times, but not during our daily decisions, without living in full surrender. The sixth way I've written down here is prioritizing image over integrity. I mean, you know what it means to look good? I'm guessing each of us took at least a short glance in the mirror this morning. Probably most of us, maybe each of us. Just want to make sure that your hair looks just right. Your hair looks really nice, by the way. And if you want to make sure there's nothing stuck in your teeth, and you want to make sure that your collar's not all flipped. My collar gets flipped up wrong all the stinking time. If you see me with my collar flipped up funny, please just come and fix it. Okay, because I don't know. I can't see what's back there. I need a mirror to do that. But if all we care about is the image at the expense of our integrity, then it looks good. Like we're posting Bible verses on social media. We're wearing the t-shirts that say something about Jesus or say something about our church. We end up using the right words when we're talking about people saying the right things, but in private, if our character isn't completely saturated with Jesus, then we're just prioritizing image over integrity. Seventh, another way that we shadowbox in our faith sometimes is that we avoid the hard work of growth. I'll do the stuff, but the hard, maybe if I really know that God's asked me to do that, right? But that's hard, that's difficult. And so we end up staying spiritually stagnant. You end up looking exactly the same now as what we did before. One of the things that I observe in athletes is that they get better over time. If the pro NFL athlete was only able to play as fast, as strong, as well now as what he did when he was in middle school, I don't think he would be able to expect that Super Bowl win. You're supposed to be getting better, not staying stagnant here. And so for those of us who shadowbox, we end up never going deeper, never allowing God to address sin in our lives, or allowing God to stretch us and refine us and take away the things that don't belong and to grow the things that need to be stronger. We need to stop pretending. We need to stop shadowboxing. And we need to run with purpose in every step. And then we get to verse 27. So if you still have your Bibles open there, look at it with me. This one is sobering, verse 27. It reads, I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be what? Disqualified. That's a little scary. Can you imagine? I did the things. I was doing great. And then one day you find out, oh, sorry, you're disqualified. I watched a video just a couple days ago about this lady who set world records in running hurdles. And she's crazy fast. The world record had been standing for years. I think it was like a couple decades that no one had beaten that particular record. And then she won that particular day. And then she ran another race on the same day, and she beat it again. But it didn't count. Because they measured the wind was at her back, and it was helping her along. And there was a rule that said if the wind exceeds a certain amount, then it doesn't count. Because the reason you were able to go faster was not you're a better athlete, you're stronger, you're faster, you run, and more better shape. In fact, it was the wind that helped. And so she was disqualified. Imagine how disheartening it would have been that day for her to learn that. Because she's, as soon as you cross the finish line, you're looking to see what's my score, what's my time, how well did I do, and you know what the record is, and you just beat that, but you didn't because you're disqualified. We have these 5 letter C words: come, connect, contribute, commit, and continue. And we continue by helping others so that they can reach their milestones. And in this line here, this verse 27, it says something about preaching. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess. Most of us are never going to stand in a pulpit in a church building. Most of us are never going to speak into a microphone to a group of people who have come to listen to a sermon. Some of us will, but for most of us, that's not the case. So before you're like, oh, that line doesn't apply to me because it's talking about preaching, I'm not a preacher, pause. And let's use the word preaching the way that God uses the word preaching. We think of it as a person in a pulpit with a microphone talking to a church. When he uses the word preaching, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times it gets translated as the word proclaiming. It means to talk with people about Jesus. Whether you're at a pulpit or not. Whether you have a microphone or not. So here he is saying, I'm going to be spending all this time talking with people about Jesus, and I don't want to be disqualified. We can do all these things and still be disqualified if we aren't disciplined to run to win, to do it for an eternal prize, to do it with purpose in every step, to stop pretending and don't get disqualified. Just before Jesus returned to heaven, he made sure that his disciples understood how to win. He talked with them in such a significant way that we've been talking about it ever since. Just before he returned to heaven, he wanted to make sure that his followers, his disciples, knew this is how this is how I define the win. He claimed all authority in heaven and on earth. Does Jesus have the highest authority? Yeah, way higher than coach, way higher than any coach. He claimed all authority, and then he sent his team to go, to make disciples, to baptize, and to teach those new disciples everything that he has commanded, including the command to go and make disciples, and to baptize, and to teach those new disciples everything that he commanded, including his command to continue. You get it? He worked it in to his last and greatest instruction to us as he defined the win that we need to continue. And the way that we continue the discipleship path is by helping others to reach their milestones along the discipleship path, by helping them to come and to connect, to contribute, to commit, and to continue. That's our path. Let's travel together. Pray with me.